Hello and welcome into Loftside Bantr. On today's episode, we're going to do heavy baseball stuff. So we're at the All-Star break, which is a little over halfway through the season. We'll look at the big storylines going into the All-Star break. We'll take a look at the first half MVPs, and we'll take a look at the players that are not living up to expectations. We'll take a look at the Home Run Derby and who's competing. It'll happen, as of this recording, will happen tonight, which will be Monday night at 8 p.m. Is it still a relevant event? Is it still something that people strive to go see? Again, we'll go into that. We'll predict the winner, all that fun stuff. And then we'll take a look at the Major League Baseball draft and how it's vastly different than any other draft in any other sport and why the best player didn't go first overall. That's kind of the storyline right now after the first couple of rounds. And then from there, we'll take a look at some miscellaneous sports news across the globe, including some basketball, a little bit of football, and some soccer, it looks like. Let us jump over the countdown so I can stop wasting your time of what we're going to talk about and actually talk about it. How about that? So let's get to the countdown and we'll get the episode started.
We are on in 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to Loftside Bantr here on looks like a decent Monday, at least. This recording will come out on Tuesday, so obviously I have to record it ahead of time. No shock there, really. But here we are. We're going to be talking about a lot of baseball today. All-Star game, halfway point in the season, home run derby, the draft, everything else like that. And then we're going to look at some other sports news from around the country and the world. With all that, the home run derby is on tonight at 8 p.m. And by the time this comes out, there'll be a winner and everything else like that. But I have the list here of players that are participating. And they didn't fill all 8 spots up until like a couple of days ago, which to me tells me that the players aren't this excited to be a part of this, let alone the excitement to watch it. It'd be interesting to see what the numbers are. As far as ratings and stuff after all this, I can't imagine that they're great anymore. It's not a must-see TV for me. As a kid it was. I wanted to watch the home run derby all the time. But in the derby itself, we'll have O'Neal Cruz from the Pittsburgh Pirates. He has 16 home runs right now. Jazz Chisholm Jr. from the New York Yankees, 17 home runs so far. Matt Olson replaces Acuna, his teammate Acuna, who is a little banged up, and I don't know if he's going to actually play in the game, but Matt Olson has competed in a home run derby before, but he has 17 so far. Brent Rooker from the Athletics has 20 home runs. Byron Buxton, the Minnesota Twins outfielder, with 21 home runs. Junior Caminero from the Tampa Bay Rays, again, pronunciation on that one probably a little off. 23 home runs so far for him. James Wood, the youngster from the Washington Nationals, who has 24 home runs. And then Big Dumper himself, Cal Raleigh, the catcher from the Seattle Mariners, 38 home runs so far, and he is absolutely killing it right now. And a catcher, again, as of recently, catchers have not been home run hitting hitters really anymore. They're more worried about taking care of their pitching stuff. He does a great job at both. There's been a lot of talk over the years that the home run derby actually throws off your swing, and it's probably a reason that a lot of players don't participate anymore, which is interesting to me. You're hitting strictly for power. You're not really putting in the other elements of the game and everything else like that, so your swing changes. Cal Raleigh has his father pitching to him and his brother catching behind him for all this. So does that change a moment at all? That it's just too much or anything else like that? But, some of the experts have gone through and looked at who they think is going to win. There's a couple of people for Matt Olson that he's participated in this. He knows kind of what to do. Some other experts have said, O'Neal Cruz, he's inconsistent, but, put in a situation where he just has to do one thing, and that's hit bombs. He'll do fine. I'd like to see Cal Raleigh win. I'd like to see this catcher who is just lighting the league on fire right now with his bat. And again, we can't take anything away from his defense. He's been a very, very good defensive catcher as well since he's been in the league. But even with that kind of exciting aspect behind it, is the home run derby still an event that people tune in to watch? It's on at 8 p.m. tonight. I think this will be the first one that I watch in a while. And I'm watching it because of the podcast. I want to make sure I have the information of who played who and whatever. Format has changed the last few years ago. Again, it's something new for me to kind of look into. But, I mean, this is definitely a kid-driven event that, you're not really watching it as an adult, I don't think. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, loftsidebanter@gmail.com is the email address. Let me know. Do you still enjoy the home run derby? I can remember being a kid and having a fort set up and watching the home run derby through that and getting excited for it. And, there was a clock and you had to hit so many in a certain amount of time or you had 10 outs and that was it. And then they changed that. I mean, in 1999, when it was McGuire and Sosa and all those guys hitting bombs over the green monster, it was fun. And now it's just okay, as you kind of gotten older and you kind of decide what sports are really kind of your favorite. I like baseball. I like watching baseball. I could watch a baseball game. I also could watch a baseball game and take a nap. That is the other aspect of this, or the other side of this coin, is playoff baseball and everything else like that is, very, very fun to watch. Regular season, when it's not the number one sport in America anymore. And, each one of these other sports have come up with something to kind of raise ratings and everything else like that, celebrate all-star games. I mean, the Pro Bowl is also another thing, and that's football. Football is the number one sport in the United States, I think, by far at this point, at least numbers-wise. But even the Pro Bowl is not something that people tune into. The skills competition for that stuff people don't turn into anymore. I think you get sick of it and you realize it's an exhibition. Now they say baseball matters and the winner of this hosts the World Series, does this, or at least they used to. And again, I don't even know if they still do that anymore. So we're at a point where we're watching baseball players go up, hit the long ball. Okay, great. You probably can get, if you go through one or two guys that have an off round, people want to tune out. Baseball has made major changes, not all of which that I agree with. I don't like the pitch clock. I understand the reasoning for it. I don't like it. I don't like the put the runner on second base in extra innings to try to end a game quicker. I understand why they do it. I mean, run times for baseball games were out of control, especially Red Sox-Yankees games. Man, they would go for 3 hours for a 9-inning game, period, let alone anything else that might have happened. Extra innings, anything else like that. It was terrible. I say terrible. It wasn't terrible. It was they did this so that way games during the week people would go and see. They wouldn't go, oh, well, I'm going to be home so late. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be up watching this. I can't stay up and watch it. I have to work tomorrow. I get all of that stuff. But you're changing a whole lot of a game that's been around for a long time, and you're giving easy RBIs, you're giving easy statistics to people that obviously people way back, even 1990s didn't have the opportunity to do. Early 2000s didn't have the opportunity to do this. It's padding stats. It's making players look better. We all know that sports has become very analytical for the most part, and it's made major changes to all that. Not saying that they're in the wrong for doing so. It's just I don't like it as an old school, get off my porch, old man type. I want these things the way they used to be. Same thing with football. I want, safety is a huge thing. I'd never want to see somebody get hurt. I do like the big hits. I do like hey, injuries do happen. And they affect how you can compete. That is what team building is all about. The early Belichick years was all about that. You needed to have 53 guys that could do all these things. You had Troy Brown and Julian Edelman who played defensive back at one point in time because you needed people like that. Now we have all these changes. You can't do this. You can't hit a quarterback below the knees. You can't do that. It's to try to keep the best product. Totally understand that. Doesn't mean I like it. I don't like the NBA Cup that comes up. And I mentioned that in the last episode, I think. I don't really like the tournament within the season because realistically, if you get people that get hurt in that, it affects the season for the NBA championship instead of an NBA Cup, which is probably nice to have in a trophy case. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't get you any other advantage. It doesn't give you more draft picks. It doesn't give you an allotment of money to spend. It doesn't give you an extra league minimum guy to get you or a mid-level exception. It doesn't do any of that. So it's money-driven. And money-driven franchises, they're always going to do that. I mean, it's the whole reason that owners spend the money that they do on players, the personnel, everything else is because they want to make money. It's not spending money for the love of the game. From that level down, it's not that. And I realize that I've gotten way off track, but I think this all ties in to all the changes within these sports that have changed kind of the game itself. The home run derby is not changing the game itself. It's simply something that is trotted out there during All-Star break, All-Star, obviously not the weekend, but, any time frame for all that stuff. Skills competitions and all those things are all something that's trotted out there to get some ratings, some extra advertising and everything else. For me, the home run derby is not much must-watch TV anymore. And it hasn't been for quite a few years. And that comes with getting older, and that comes with maybe not knowing every single person that puts on the jersey anymore. But for football, I still pretty much know the Patriots 53-man roster at any given time. Simply because I want to know who these people are, where they've come from, what they can bring to the team. Is it going to make an improvement? Is it going to make them worse? What's this move all about? Baseball, it's hard to do. There's always constantly people going up and down. Red Sox, I remember a few years ago before I started getting back into all of this and wanting to do this podcast itself, there were people that I just had never heard of on this roster. And that's when I knew I was old. Well, I mean, I knew I was old before that, just so we're clear. But I'm starting to see these things through the adult eyes that my parents did when I was a kid, and I would bring them all the statistics and everything else like that, and they'd go, oh, that's cool. And they just kind of move on. I mean, it's the way life goes for me and probably for a majority of other people. But the thing with sports is it's always easy to hop back in. You just do a little research and you kind of have good information. Again, sports are very analytical and everything else. But Derby has taken so many different elements and changed them around to a bracket, to, a round robin type thing. It used to be you had 10 outs in a round. Everybody batted. Whoever the top 4 was moved on to the next round. They did the same thing the next round. You had 10 outs. You hit the most home runs. The top 2 go to the final. 10 outs. It was you had Chris Berman yelling back, 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 back. And that was the exciting call for all of that stuff. And people got hooked on that. Now it's, this person plays this person and this draw. Oh, this person got a bad draw against this person. He hit more home runs, but overall in this round, this is what happened. There's too many different variables to it, and it was to speed it up. That's what it was to speed it up. So again, everything comes full circle. Baseball wanted to speed itself up. And this is where we're at with that. I mean, frankly, baseball does a lot of weird things, such as their draft. Their draft is a weird concept because it's so long and you're trying to fill basically a whole team in your rookie leagues with these draft picks and players that you pick up undrafted because you're moving people up and down constantly and everything else. So the MLB Draft started yesterday, and there was a surprise pick at number 1 and number 2. So the Washington Nationals, who just fired their World Series winning manager and World Series winning GM with no money to spend, having struggled the last few years because ownership doesn't want to spend money, which is the story out of DC. That is They fired guys that were doing a lot with a little. And they did it about a couple weeks ago, maybe as far back as a month ago. But fans were not happy with the dismissal of those guys when ownership is just not really giving any money. But the Nationals had the number 1 pick, and they picked Eli Willits, a shortstop from Fort Cobb Broxton High School in Oklahoma. He was rated the 5th overall prospect in the draft. He wasn't number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. He wasn't any of those things. The reason being is there's money slot values for top picks. And what that means is it's typically what they're going to be paid to be picked in that position. Now, it doesn't mean you get that much money. So, for example, the number 1 pick was around $11 million. And it doesn't mean that Eli Willits will get $11 million. It just means that that's what kind of they have for the table, or what they have for the top number to give for somebody in that for bonuses. Because baseball is, especially down in the minor leagues, you're based upon bonuses and everything else like that. The first overall pick should have been Cade Anderson, the pitcher from LSU. Now, I'm a big LSU fan. Outside of my Boston College teams and stuff like that, I root for LSU. Cade Anderson has Scott Boras, who's one of the hardest agents to work with across sports and baseball especially. He's a shrewd negotiator. He gets the most for his clients and everything else like that. He is known as that guy. And the Nationals, needing to not spend the $11 million on the first overall pick, knew they would probably have to spend close to, if not at that, for Cade Anderson, and decided to go with Eli Willits. And the explanation is, if you draft somebody that isn't expected to be number 1 at number 1, you have some more leverage to go, well, you weren't going to go number 1 unless we took you there. Not really happen in other sports. This doesn't really happen there. Basketball, you're picking the best guy you possibly can available, who's overall number 1. Cooper Flagg's overall number 1. So he goes number 1. Football, that maybe has to do with position more often than not. Like, if the Patriots at 4 didn't have an offensive tackle that they really trusted, they probably would have gone with a different position. Wide receiver, they have other holes they could have filled. They go with Will Campbell because they need tackle help. They needed offensive line help badly. Was he maybe the number 4 overall prospect? No, maybe not. Maybe he was a little bit further down the board. But for the most part, the positions in football are a little different. Basketball positions have now blended together. You got centers that can take up the ball. You got point guards that can get you 10-plus rebounds a game. So, I mean, all of this stuff changes based upon that. So those are the things there. With baseball, it's you're drafting a shortstop, you can stick them just about anywhere. I've seen shortstops that turn into pitchers. I've seen pitchers that turn into shortstops. I've seen shortstops that go to... Shortstop's a very generic position to stick somebody. And it normally is... You'll see a lot more shortstops, and I'm doing the air quotes again, that will then be moved to different positions. That's positioning of what they're listed at. Pitchers... Catchers, maybe. I mean, they can play first base as well, but it's a whole bunch of different things. The next guy up, the next team up were the Los Angeles Angels, who have some great talent on their roster and have not put it together whatsoever over the last few years. Mike Trout has been wasted in the LA Angels organization, which scares me because now it just makes it seem like he's going to be a Yankee at some point in time. They didn't go for Cade Anderson. At number 2, they picked Tyler Bremner, a pitcher from UC Santa Barbara. Now, the Angels have always been kind of that team that they're going to try to get players to the major leagues as quickly as possible. Bremner's a little bit more polished, probably right now, but has nowhere near a ceiling that Cade Anderson does. Bremner was rated 18th overall. They knew they weren't going to get to him in the second round. They took the guy they wanted instead of Cade Anderson. And again, maybe it's one of those things like, hey, you were the 18th rated, but we're going to pay you a little bit less. Bremner has premium stuff. He's got a fastball up to 98 miles an hour, one of the better changeups in the class, and he has a slider that does really well, has pitched really well. This will be another below slot deal. So again, this is where they're going to. Now, he finished 2025 as one of the hottest pitchers. So again, he's more polished now. Kate Anderson goes third to the Mariners, who've had great success developing pitchers over the last decade or so. Actually, probably a little bit longer than that. So the number one prospect drops to number 3. Ethan Holiday, if that last name sounds familiar, that's Matt Holliday's son, who is also the brother of Orioles second baseman Jackson Holiday. So 2 of Matt Holliday's kids have made it to the major leagues, or at least been drafted into the major leagues. For those of you who don't remember, Matt Holiday was famous for playing for the Rockies. He played 4 years there. He played for the Cardinals for quite a while. And then he spent a year with the Athletics, the Yankees, and he went back to the Rockies at the very end of his career. So he was famous for basically the Rockies and the Cardinals, playing for those teams. But Ethan Holiday goes to the Rockies at 4. He was pretty much tied for number 1. They considered Kate Anderson and Ethan Holloway 1 and 1A for this class. Liam Doyle, the pitcher from Tennessee, goes to the Cardinals. The Pirates picked a California high schooler by Seth Hernandez. No, again, other names that are on here. The White Sox picked Billy Carlson, a shortstop from high school from California. 15, the Red Sox got Kyson Witherspoon. He was considered the 10th overall best prospect, so he dropped a little bit. I think that's a big pickup for the Red Sox for young pitching. They were supposed to pick Merrick Houston from Wake Forest. He ends up going to pick after to the Minnesota Twins. So a whole bunch of different stuff as far as these prospects and where they're going. They're jumping around. You know, you got people that reach for some because they're not going to be there in the second round and yada, yada, yada. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things that happen that change the outcome of a draft considering prospects. Money is a huge thing. Where you're drafting them and the development process, obviously there's a ton of scouts going around and you end up having, you know, you have AAA, AA, single A, short season A, or at least you should have short season A, rookie league ball. You have to fill all these rosters with people. So it's obviously quite a few picks. And again, you basically pick these guys and you go, oh man, I hope they pan out. That's baseball in a nutshell. It's so random with baseball in their draft. You know, some of these guys you may not hear from ever again because they just either don't live up to it or they can't develop or they can't figure out, you know, how to accept coaching at different levels or anything else like that. Everybody hopes that all these picks are this huge success, but that's not how it works out in baseball. It doesn't work out a lot in baseball that way. So again, it is what it is, but the baseball draft is so weird comparative to the other ones. Oh, we can't take this guy. He's asking for too much money. Well, he's the best player available. You want your team to have the best players available, right? Well, if we pay him this much, he doesn't pan out, then he's this, he's that, he's whatever. So it's interesting to me that that's how baseball conducts itself with this draft. We also have some controversy for the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. The Philadelphia Phillies and Philadelphia fans, which are a whole beast by themselves, are upset because there was a replacement for the National League All-Star team as far as pitching is concerned. There have been a grand total of 80, just about 80, All-Stars named. And that includes replacements and everything else like that. But among these players, Brewers right-handed pitcher Jacob Misiorowski was added to the All-Star roster despite making only 5 career appearances. 5 appearances this year, and he's an All-Star. Obviously not voted on right away, but a replacement All-Star. But an All-Star nonetheless. There's some reports that 15 other pitchers declined an invitation to the All-Star game, and that's why they ended up with Jacob Misiorowski. But that seems a little hard to believe, right? like 15 people declined. There's a rule in baseball that if you pitch the day or two before the All-Star game or whatever it may be, that you're ineligible to pitch in the game, but you can still be named an All-Star, then replaced and all that different stuff. But there's some rule, like I'd have to go dig deeper to really get the particulars of it. But there is a rule like that if a pitcher is throwing a day or two before. So that's why there's always changes and stuff to lineups and everything before the All-Star game. It's only for pitchers, by the way, as well. So the process looks like this. Starting position players are selected via fan voting. Boy, I don't know why via was so hard for me. Player voting selects the next 9 position players plus 5 starting pitchers and 3 relievers. Then the commissioner's office selects the rest of the roster. That's the process in getting an all-star roster together. It used to be all-star managers could pick players to put into the rest of the roster. Back in those days, all-star managers would fill out several roster spots and inevitably choose their own players. It was part of the perk of being the all-star manager. This year, Aaron Boone of the Yankees and Dave Roberts of the Dodgers are not selecting anybody. So that's the new process, or at least the process that has been in place for a couple of years. Again, a lot of changes in Major League Baseball for all-star teams, you know, and all the different rules that they have and everything else like that. A lot of changes over the past probably 5-6 years now. I mean, those are all the big news stories around the All-Star game. I'm recording this last part, kind of watching the Home Run Derby as we kind of go along. So I'll probably be able to give you the winner at the end of the episode, even though at the beginning I recorded it just before we started. Again, just the story of my life, right? Just trying to put everything together, blend it all together like nobody will notice, right? Before we take a look at the first half MVPs of Major League Baseball and, you know, players that have done above and beyond what they're supposed to be doing, I do want to give a quick shout out to my friends at podcast.today. Their daily newsletter that handpicks the best new podcast episodes across every genre. You can subscribe for free at podcast.today. Get a fresh lineup of shows delivered to your inbox every morning. If you love discovering hidden gems or want someone else to do scrolling for you, head over there and do that. They featured me yesterday, and I was very grateful. I mean, that is something that is what I've been kind of shooting for, is having people start to notice on different platforms and everything else like that. So very grateful for everybody over at podcast.today. Not a paid ad for this, just so we're clear. I actually am generally happy that they chose me in the sports category. So thank you very much for that. So head over and sign up. If you're looking for new podcasts that maybe you haven't had access to or haven't been able to find, they'll send new ones to you every single day. So that's pretty cool. So looking back at the first half of the season for Major League Baseball and kind of where we're at, you know, looking at standings right now, AL East, the Toronto Blue Jays are in first place, 2 games over the New York Yankees. 1 game behind the Yankees is the Boston Red Sox, and they've won 10 straight, which, being from this area, is exciting, and that I believe they've started to turn a corner. Now, the problem right now is that the Red Sox have to stop for this All-Star break, and the momentum kind of stops. Over the last couple of years, they've had really good records going into the All-Star break. I believe last year they were 9-3 or something like that. The year before they were 8-1 or 8-2. And everyone said, hey, this is kind of that corner. Oh, we got to go through the All-Star break. And we all know what happened. They finished around 500. That's the name of the game. Momentum is a very big thing in baseball. If you're hitting, you have that swag about you. If you're pitching well, you have that. If you're being consistent, all these things tend to fall into place. When you have to stop that for a 3 to 4 day period, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But, so Toronto, the New York Yankees, and the Boston Red Sox are 3 games apart. The Tampa Bay Rays are 5.5 games back, so only 2.5 games behind the Red Sox in 4th place. So pretty competitive. I mean, every team that's 1st through 4th in the AL East has a winning record. So there's that. AL Central, the Detroit Tigers are running away with it. and they've been the best team in baseball for a little while. I mean, you can make that argument because they have the most wins, but the Tigers are 11.5 games up on the Minnesota Twins, who are in second place. The Houston Astros are 5 games up over the Seattle Mariners for first place in the AL West. In the NL East, the Phillies are only a half game up on the Mets right now. The Chicago Cubs are 1 game up on the Milwaukee Brewers in the Central, and the NL West has the Dodgers 5.5 games up on the Padres, who are only a half game in front of the Giants. So, again, a lot of competitive. I'd say the only one that's not competitive is the AL Central right now. Everywhere else, there's at least some competitiveness. I like the Seattle Mariners. I like what they've done so far. So I don't think they're out of this race by any means. If you're looking at wild card spots, the Yankees lead with the Red Sox 1 game up on the Seattle Mariners. So AL is still very much wide open for just about everywhere, except for, I think the Tigers have pretty much locked it away. They'd have to, again, we've seen epic collapses in Major League Baseball, but that's what the Tigers would need to have an epic collapse, especially with kind of who they're competing against in that Central. Again, the Twins are 2 games under 500. The Royals are 3 games under 500. Same thing with the Guardians, and then the White Sox are just so far in the distance, 27 games back, that it's just the fact that I brought them up in this podcast is probably amazing. It's probably going to be the highlight of their week, right? Looking at MVPs through the first half of the year, there are 3 major picks for both AL and NL. In the AL, Aaron Judge from the Yankees, Kyle Raleigh from the Mariners, and Tarek Skubal, the starting pitcher from the Tigers, are the 3 guys that have MVP kind of first half of the seasons. There are going to be people that are going to look at, I would vote for Kyle Raleigh. The reason being is that Judge is not giving the Yankees any more than what the Yankees should already be doing. And that's a hard line to kind of take in an MVP race, only because that's penalizing somebody for being on a good team. And I understand that. However, the things that are being done by Kyle Raleigh in a position that isn't typically known for doing what he's doing right now. He was 1 home run short from tying Barry Bonds' 2001 39 home runs before the All-Star break. If he keeps this up, he may very well win the MVP on account of posting the greatest year ever by a catcher. I mean, he's played 70 out of the 96 games behind the plate. He calls pitches. He's blocking, pitches in the dirt, wearing foul balls when they get fouled off into him, absorbing all the wear and tear that a catcher does. But the one thing that worries me is he has had a poor July as far as hitting is concerned. He's batting 128, .128, if you will, in 11 games so far in July. It may be that it's kind of catching up with him a little bit to be doing all the catching and everything else. Judge is filling all those other statistics that maybe Raleigh isn't doing as well. He's batting 96 points higher, 355 compared to Raleigh's 259. He has 38 more total bases, which is a first half record. He has 258 to 220. He also leads in OBP by a significant margin and slugging by a significant margin. That's the one thing that I think Judge has going for him right now, is that he's been more consistent throughout the whole season. As somebody that has seen Judge do this year in, year out, again, it's an expectation kind of that this is what Aaron Judge does. And the Yankees are in first place. The Mariners are in a position that they're in because Kyle Raleigh has kept them, 5 games back in the standings for the AL West. NL's a little bit more clearer, and that's because Shohei Ohtani is the MVP. He's the best player in baseball, in my opinion, And I'm going to hear it from Yankees fans about Aaron Judge, and I'm going to hear about, oh, how can you say he's the best player out there? Just, he is. He not only leads the NL in homers, slugging, OPS, and has scored an absurd 90 runs in 95 games. He has done all of this while rehabbing from a second elbow surgery and starting 5 games on the mound. For all of you that may have become a baseball fan all of a sudden, Shohei Ohtani pitches, and he pitches really well. In those 5 times that he's been pitching, he's allowed 1 run over 9 innings with 10 strikeouts and 2 walks. This is not an overthinking situation. He's the MVP of the NL. And unless something drastic happens, he's going to continue to be the MVP of the NL because he's the best player in baseball. Some other guys that are kind of in the conversation would be Pete Crow Armstrong from the Cubs. He's chasing a 40-40 season, and he's been probably a Gold Glove center fielder. That is realistically the reason why I have him on the list, and I think Juan Soto's probably on this list just because he's Juan Soto. AL Cy Young is probably going to Skubal of the Tigers. He's just been lights out almost every single game he goes out on the mound. I mean, Tarek Skubal is 10-3 with a 2.23 ERA, 19 starts, 153 strikeouts. I mean, he's pitched amazing. Some other guys on the list that could be in this conversation would be somebody like Jacob deGrom of the Texas Rangers, which I thought he was probably washed. He's 9-2 with a 2.32 ERA, 37 years old. Again, I thought he was well past it, is pitching really well for the Texas Rangers this year. Now, Texas isn't really competing for all that much right now. They're about 8.5 games back in the AL West, and I still think the Astros and Mariners are better than them. They're only a half game up on the Angels. And deGrom has lower strikeout numbers than most of the guys that will be on this list, but he's pitching really well. He's got 9 wins, obviously a good ERA. Hunter Brown from the Astros, somebody that's kind of come out of nowhere a little bit. 9-4 with a 2.43 ERA, 137 strikeouts. So again, 24 more than deGrom right now. I mean, I say he came out of nowhere. I mean, he's been pitching for the last 3 or 4 years. Made 30 starts last year. No, 11-9. Again, nothing great out of that. But I mean, a 3.49 ERA then. So I mean, he's got it in him. He's obviously just improving as I think he's 26 years old. So to be on this list, and then I think you have to throw Garrett Crochet on there. Garrett Crochet is 10-4 with a 2.23 ERA, 160 strikeouts. He leads the American League in strikeouts. I'm trying to keep every bit of Boston bias out of this, but I mean, he's put up great numbers. He's also had a team that has floundered around 500 for most of this year. And the only thing that really has kept him in it is the days he goes out every 5 days and pitches gems. I mean, he hasn't had the best games every single time, and he also has had a lot of no decisions because this team couldn't put up runs around him. And who would have thought you had to trade Rafi Devers to do that? And I also misspoke as I'm looking at the screen now. Garrett Crochet leads the major leagues in strikeouts with 160, not just the AL. In theory, he would also lead the AL in strikeouts because of that. But I digress. Guys on the NL side, Zach Wheeler from the Phillies, 9-3, 2.36 ERA, 154 strikeouts. So, I mean, he's right up there numbers-wise with Crochet and Tarek Skubal and all them. Matthew Boyd, I think, to me, though, his strikeout numbers are really low for the Cubs. But he's 10-3 with a 2.34 ERA, made 19 starts, 111 innings, 102 strikeouts. So, again, significantly about 52 strikeouts short of where Zach Wheeler is right now. But he's pitched really well. He's getting wins for the Cubs and everything else like that. So, how much does that strikeout comparative to mean anything? And then you go with somebody like Paul Skeens, who's 4-8 with just over a 2 ERA. Now he plays for a horrific Pittsburgh Pirates team. So he's not getting wins because of that. 131 strikeouts. He has been dominant by not letting up runs. The Pittsburgh Pirates cannot win games. They just are not winning games like that. So to look even to where they are right now, they're in dead last in the NL Central at 39-58. That should tell you everything you need to know about how Paul Skeens is playing. And you think that you're going to get all these great draft picks and everything else. The Pittsburgh Pirates have been at the top of the draft for years and years and have not been able to put the best talent, even with high draft picks. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're kind of looking at. Paul Skeens was a no-brainer, and you had to go out and get him. He was a once-in-a-generational kind of pitcher, and he's proven that, even with a 4-8 record. But this is... I would love to say that he's got a shot at it, but I just don't think he does. So it's nice to see that they're still considering him a top pitcher because of how he does individually, but baseball, obviously, you need other people to win. You can't do it all yourself. I'd say Robbie Ray from the Giants is probably the back end of this conversation, 9-3 with a 2.65 ERA, 128 strikeouts. It's a very razor-thin race. I think Wheeler right now where he's at, he has edge over strikeouts, batting average against over Skeens and stuff like that. At 30, he's 35 years old. He's never won a Cy Young, and he's finished second twice. So maybe Zach Wheeler's due. I mean, Matthew Boyd is pitching really well. He's probably be my second choice after Wheeler. It's just he's got to get those strikeout numbers up. That's what people are going to look at. They're going to look at, well, he's 50 less in the strikeout department, AL Manager of the Year for the first half has got to be A.J. Hitch. I mean, the Tigers look phenomenal. They're the fourth youngest team in the MLB, and yet they're still well above everybody else in the Central. Hitch has been great at using his whole roster. He plays platoon advantages 58% of the time. He's one of the better managers in baseball. And going through the whole thing he did with the Astros and everything else like that. But even for a team that doesn't steal bases often, they're the best base running team in the AL. So, I mean, that should tell you, even in what they're not good at, he's taking advantage of whatever mismatches he can find. Kevin Cash is of the Rays probably on this list. They're in fourth right now. Again, not the best built roster for a low spending team. He's got a winning record out of it. So, I mean, it's one of those things that Kevin Cash, as long as they're winning, is going to look like a genius as far as manager. NL Manager of the Year, Craig Counsell for the Cubs, I think is my pick right now. The Cubs are not only the highest scoring team in Major League Baseball, but they rank high in the NL in areas that reflect the influence of a manager, such as stolen bases, hitting with runners in scoring position, fewest games lost out of the bullpen, third fewest in strikeouts as far as a hitting team is concerned. Pat Murphy from the Brewers has them in a decent position. Bob Melvin of the Giants probably on this list as well. AL Comeback Player of the Year, Jake DeGrom is probably going to win this one. This is the one that I thought that he was probably in a good race for, let alone not necessarily the Cy Young, but he's thrown more innings and won more games in this half of the season than he did in the previous 3 years combined. So, I mean, he's had his troubles. Again, I thought he was washed. Though he is my age, it's one of those things that he just couldn't keep up with his health. He kept getting injured. He couldn't, get things done over the last couple of years. The Rangers obviously have had him in a pretty good position to be successful this year. So I think he absolutely deserves that. Javier Baez from the Tigers and Spencer Torkelson are probably the other two that I'm looking at for AL Comeback Player of the Year. NL, Robbie Ray of the Giants, I have him in the Cy Young, kind of bottom that list for the Cy Young. Matthew Boyd is on this list, and then Ronald Acuna Jr., who had to back out from the Home Run Derby because of some injuries and stuff like that. But those are the three that I think have a good shot at that. Robbie Ray has been pitching the best right now. Obviously, I kind of have him and Matthew Boyd, similar positions on the list for the Cy Young. So we'll see what happens with that. He had to at least. Robbie Ray is throwing different. I don't know if baseball fans will know this. He's reinvented his throwing motion at least 2 or 3 times. He's had elbow surgeries, flexor tendon surgeries, I should say. He's found a kind of new mix. He's a heavy fastball slider pitcher now. Again, wasn't what he was a few years ago. But these are the types of players. Curt Schilling was similar to this. I would say some of the guys in Atlanta were used to this. Greg Maddux couldn't overpower you, but he could place the ball exactly where he wanted it. And that's kind of what Robbie Ray has had to kind of do later in his career. I mean, he's still 33. He's just had so many surgeries and stuff that he's had to change all these different things, but he's pitching so well this year. I mean, his career averages a 3.87 ERA is fantastic. I mean, he has started 249 games in his career. He's pitched over 1,300 innings. Just having to reinvent yourself so many different times. Now, I mean, he was with Arizona. He struggled early on in his career. Went to Toronto for a year and a half, looked decent in 2021, went over to Seattle, kind of had a 500 record, and then came over to the Giants and has pitched really well over the last 2 seasons. Now, last year he only pitched 7 games because of injury. So it's just one of those things that somebody having to keep reinventing themselves and not going back and just understanding that, hey, this is not what I can do anymore. I now need to adjust to either being a more placement guy or whatever the case may be. So it's a very cool story for Robbie Ray to kind of be in the position he's in right now. So that's kind of the first half of the season, kind of MVPs and everything else like that. Some teams that are disappointing so far throughout this season. I think the Guardians at 46 and 49, I don't think they were ever going to be super close to contending for the Central, but I didn't think that they'd be 4th in the division as of right now. The Texas Rangers, listen, the Angels always have to be on your list of disappointment, simply because they have such amazing talent with Mike Trout, Joe Adell, or Ardrell. Let's see. Mike Trout, 33 years old. I mean, 17 home runs this year, batting .238. Again, he's not batting fantastic this year. He's always injured. Joe Adell, that's his name, has played really well, 19 home runs so far this season. I've been a fan of Lamont Wade Jr. He's just not having a great year pretty much any year. I mean, he's had a couple of good years with the Giants prior to coming here. But they're 4th in the division. They're not a very good team. And with Mike Trout was a once-in-a-lifetime generational player, and he's just not it. He just hasn't been able to take this team to really anything. And I feel bad for him because he's been kind of stuck there. And, I mean, they had Shohei Ohtani at one point. They still weren't making the playoffs. So, those are my AL disappointment teams. On the National League side, I think with the money that the Mets spent, they should have been well ahead of the Phillies at this point. The Phillies obviously have a great roster, so it's not like they're going to blow them away or anything else like that, but you have them, and then I think the Padres. The Padres, I don't think they were ever going to catch the Dodgers in the West, but they spend so much money on talent that for them to be a half game up on the Giants, who aren't notably known for overspending all that much, it's just the Padres have always had high expectations. They bring in Manny Machado and Xavier Bogaerts. They bring in, they re-sign Fernando Tatis. They end up bringing him in a trade years ago. At this point, it's just they have such great talent, and they just flounder behind the Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers have outbid everybody, have figured out all this different stuff for them to do. They've done everything to definitely be a first-place team, and so it was very difficult to kind of say that they're going to overtake the Dodgers, but you would think they'd be better off than 52 and 44. The Padres are 52-44. You would think that they would be better off than that. They're not. I'd love to hear San Diego fans tell me why this is the case or anything else like that. But as of right now, it's just they've never really competed with the Dodgers. And the Dodgers, I understand, are a monster of a team. They have every player that's been any good anywhere come to this team. They pay them much more than what you could possibly imagine. They're going to be paying these salaries for years on years on years with Ohtani and Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, all them. I mean, their pitching is just, they have Yamamoto. They still have Clayton Kershaw. Granted, he's not really the same kind of player. I mean, he's 4-1 this year in 10 starts. So, I mean, he's still pitching without Taylor Glass now. They have all of these guys that can compete no matter where they are, whether in the rotation, whether in the bullpen, whether they're coming out of the back end of the bullpen, or a guy that can play two ways. They have a catcher that's an all-star in Will Smith. So, I mean, they have all these great players, and it's just the Padres. You think that they'd get over the hurdle at some point in time to be better than, 8 games over 500. All right, going ahead and looking at some sports news from the day. So I'm finishing recording at the very end of the Home Run Derby. Cal Raleigh has won the Home Run Derby. He's the first Mariner to do it since Ken Griffey Jr. He ended up moving on in one round by a meter because they measured distance and stuff like that, which is great technology to know how far exactly somebody hits it at any point in time, but whatever. So Cal Raleigh, first catcher to take the home run crown. So he's having an amazing year. Greatest nickname in baseball, Big Dumper. I mean, this is a very, very cool story. But he wins that. The Rays, Tampa Bay Rays, Stu Sternberg is set to sell the team for $1.7 billion, which is much more than I thought the Rays would get just because they have 0 people that show up to their games. I believe I had a front row seat when I was living down in Tampa. I went over to St. Petersburg and I got a front row seat pretty much for peanuts. Though Sternberg bought the team in 2004 for $200 million. So quite a bit of profit, $1.5 billion on a franchise, which is great. The franchise is being sold to a group led by Florida-based developer Patrick Zalupski. Zalupski. Z-A-L-U-P-S-K-I. Zalupski. He originally had a deal for the Tampa Bay Rays. Mr. Zalupski had a deal last year to buy the Rays and to move them to out of Tropicana Field into a better district of St. Petersburg. However, Hurricane Milton shredded the roof of the stadium last October, forcing the Rays to play in Steinbrenner Stadium, which sucks all around for everybody. I don't think the Rays want to play in a place called Steinbrenner Field. It's where the Yankees play their spring games, going into spring training and everything else like that. But that's what they had to do. He backed off the sale because he said the Rays would have to absorb the cost because it wasn't within the number. I mean, obviously you're paying $1.7 billion for the franchise. It's probably not in the budget to fix the stadium. So they just really, Sternberg has been pushed to sell this franchise. He's just done nothing with it. He's done, they've had some good winning seasons with low payroll, and that's great. But then all those pieces get sold off or traded for or outbid for things. So Major League Baseball has been pushing for this sale to happen for a while. So hopefully this new owner will make them competitive. And again, it's an AL East team, and when you're playing an AL East team as a Boston Red Sox fan, you go, okay, I'd like to play the Rays as many times because nobody's investing in it. Well, now there's going to be a little bit more competitiveness, which is great. It's great for baseball all around. One thing I do want to mention in the world of football, if we all remember Teddy Bridgewater, obviously a former NFL quarterback. He played for teams like the Minnesota Vikings, the Saints, bounced around a little bit at the end of his career with the Panthers, Broncos, Dolphins, and Lions. Lions was in 2023, so that's the last time he was in the league. and got any sort of game time. But he was coaching Miami Northwest High School, his alma mater, or at least high school alma mater, has been suspended from his position as the head football coach in Miami for allegedly providing impermissible benefits to players. He confirmed his suspension on Facebook on Sunday. He led the school to a 3A state championship in his first season in coaching last year. He went back to the Lions last year to be the backup to Jared Goff. I think he threw one pass for 3 yards in the loss to the Commanders in the playoffs. He admitted to paying for Uber rides, Uber meals, and recovery services for his players last season, and he asked fans to donate to help cover such expenses this year. Now, that is the payments that he's making that are improper to the system. So I understand him being suspended, but he's also providing for kids that may not have the means to do so themselves. It's one of those gray area things. Obviously, it's not a gray area. It's against the rules. But we're trying to, or at least Teddy Bridgewater is trying to help kids be better off. And if that's helping them with meals or helping them with recovery services and stuff like that, it's tough to suspend somebody like that. He says in his post that he's going nowhere and that he doesn't want to sign to be a coach somewhere else. He wants to coach for his alma mater and that he'll coach from the bleachers if he needs to. The Florida High School Athletic Association confirmed to Rivals on Monday that it is gathering more information to look at all this stuff. So there's a chance that they waive the suspension. It's going to be a weird kind of back and forth for all this. But I think I applaud him for doing the right things. And I hope it's just this deep and we're not looking into this and going, oh, well, he was providing X, Y, Z that was competitive advantages or whatever the case may be. So it's just one of those things that this is a gray area and it's the right thing to do, but also against the rules. So this is what kind of needs to happen. So it's an interesting story. I want everybody to kind of follow it so that way we can kind of see what's kind of going on. And it won't, it's tough because you want to provide for kids. You want them to have the best available. You want them to have every opportunity, but you got to stay within the rules. So again, we'll see kind of how this plays out. And then from here, a little bit of news for the show. We're going to do video segments that go up on YouTube and, I'll post them on social medias and stuff like that. We're going to start with that and really get the editing down, right? I'm having some difficulty doing all of the editing and everything else like that. So I apologize for not being able to do a full show. We might try one out in the coming future, but again, there'll at least be segments going up. So it'll be recorded. And then from there, we'll, or I say we. I always say we because I think this company is going to have a lot of we in the near future. But as of right now, it's me. It's me doing it. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. I'm going to try to do the Buffalo Bills episode. It'll probably be shorter than the normal hour or so as a video. And I'll look into all of those different things and kind of work on the background and everything else. So there'll be some of that coming up as well. And then Podbean will be the main place that you can find everything. So they've been great so far in helping out with all the new stuff that I maybe don't understand quite yet. But we're getting there. So again, thank you everybody. Thank you all the Loftsiders that listen every week. I see the numbers and they look fantastic. And I'm again, spread it around. Like, subscribe, do everything else like that. We're still everywhere. We're still on iHeartRadio. We're still on Spotify. We're still on Apple Podcasts, everything else like that. So again, I thank everybody. And no matter where you are, whether it's the morning, whether it's the evening, or whether it's middle of the afternoon, who knows? I want everyone to have a good one. We'll see you all for the next episode.